All right, welcome back to Politically Homeless. This is Dave, and over here I am homeless rather than harmless, but sometimes I'm both, okay? So this story really caught my attention. Vladimir Putin accuses the UK of being behind a plot against a Russian nuclear power plant. Yeah, that's a good idea, right? Well, so far I think we've taken out a bridge, we, meaning the West. We've definitely taken out a natural gas pipeline. No big deal. I'm sure the German people are really happy about all that and how their energy costs have like tripled, and how economies are collapsing or holding on or just struggling to get their head above water just slightly. Anyway, that doesn't matter, right? Because it's the war in Ukraine and we have to keep sending money. And by the way, don't worry about what's going on in Maui. For all you fans of the direct energy weapon, I'll accept your premise. So, okay, for the sake of this video, I'll accept the premise that somebody, zapped Maui. Okay, so now they're going to go in there and divide it up and conquer it. What you should be worried about, though, is how those people in Maui are going to rebuild, right? And stopping that from happening. This focus on how it happened is, it's important. We should know if people are using crazy radical technology, although I've had an expert on the show debunking that, okay? However, say it's true, right? We're sending more money to Ukraine rather than sending money to Maui. Isn't that really the big issue right now? See, this is why I think a lot of independent media is just infotainment. And it's not that much info, but it's mostly entertainment. I mean, if you have 5 guys on your show that talk about a direct energy weapon, yeah, man, I'm going to watch that. That's cool. But if you're going to tell me about how, we're spending all our money on Ukraine, that's boring. I don't want to hear about that. That's stupid. Okay, well, this is why things cost more at the grocery store, because we're printing money. And then there's no diplomacy, and nobody's really into this idea of like stopping the war in Ukraine. All right. You're all into the glamorous, really sexy stories about things blowing up and lasers and geoengineering, weather engineering. All of that is interesting to me, and it could be something that's maybe more important. Maybe the stuff that I'm worried about, the stuff that maybe we could affect change with, that stuff is insignificant, because eventually the world is just going to melt down and there's going to be nothing left, and the controllers are going to control everything. And I do believe that some of that is occurring. But at the micro level, you could get down into the trenches and say, enough. Call your state rep, call your congressperson and say, I don't want you to send money to Ukraine. If 1,000 people picked up the phone and did that, life would change. But, we've got the propaganda war. So Putin comes out and says the Brits are targeting a nuclear power plant. This according to the TASS news agency. Now, if I say TASS news agency, the algorithm here on wonderful, fair, and balanced YouTube will pick that up. And it'll say, okay, this guy is promoting Putin. He's a Putin apologist because he just quoted the TASS news agency. So we're going to throttle down that video. People want to watch it. It's not going to appear in their feed. They have to be a subscriber. The notification bell has to be enabled. And again, that's no guarantee that you're going to know about this video, unless you go and look for it. I mean, I can share this in a few places, but that's about it. So Putin doesn't offer any evidence. So all the people in the UK and the West, they're going to say, aha, he's just making this up. Again, we took out a bridge. We took out a pipeline. The UK, the West, the United States, what was it? The Netherlands? Somebody else was involved in this. Basically NATO. Okay, so NATO went in there and did these things. And of course, the United States is kind of like leading NATO, right? They're telling who can be in NATO, who can't be in NATO. Obviously, Ukraine wants to be in NATO. And for some reason, the United States stops short there, because I think at that point you would have a full-fledged World War III. What they want is managed chaos, all right? They want some chaos, but they don't want stuff that they can't manage. Like when this becomes less interesting, less convenient, doesn't make money for the military-industrial complex, we go through all of our crap weaponry that we're giving them, that they don't know how to use, by the way, that they need training on. All right. We send them fighter jets. They don't know how to fly these jets. They don't know how to maintain them. So the whole thing is a grift from the bottom up. And it looks really good, though. It looks like Antony Blinken is really tough and laying down the law and so forth. It's garbage. It's all entertainment. Okay. And the people who want like a higher degree, like a higher hit of entertainment, like this drug of endless war, this is boring. What we need are direct energy weapons, geoengineering, all of this stuff. By the way, I'm not saying that it's not happening. All I'm saying is there are things we can control, and then there are things that, how are you going to go and stop? Is it the white hat hackers that would come along that the X-22 report is going to tell me tomorrow? Hey, it arrests, if I hear one more time that arrests are imminent, who are they arresting? They're arresting Trumpers. That's who they're arresting. Giuliani and all of these people. I mean, even people who are kind of on the periphery, on the edges, they're indicting. So when are the other arrests coming? When I see that, I'll pay a little bit more attention to the whole, QAnon predictive programming that's out there. So far, their track record is like a Jimmy Swaggart thing. It's just not very good. So anyway, Putin goes on to say that Britain's leadership, they're aware of the activities and all of their intelligence assets. Do they even understand what they are playing with? When somebody says this, when a leader, one of the leaders of the free world, whether you want to admit Putin is in that, he's definitely in that category. When he says, do you know what you're playing with here? He's getting a little agitated. And now this may be rhetoric. He's, I think, shown restraint. This hasn't been a shock and awe campaign against Ukraine. This has been a very slow, methodic, and some people in Russia are complaining that this is taking too long. But I think they have this under control, because the Western media, they're like, well, we can't crack through that Russian front line. We're having difficulty defeating them. But Ukraine, they're holding their own. This is the narrative that they may be fighting valiantly. They may be doing a good job, but they're not making any inroads to, get whatever land back that they think they're going to get back. This has been the narrative for quite some time, that the goal here is to get, Crimea back. And it's like, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. And it seems as though Russia has the upper hand. It seems as though the West is failing at trying to, actually go in and turn this around. And the reason that they're failing is because, again, you don't have enough intelligence on the ground. You don't have enough military hardware on the ground, and you don't have people who can utilize this equipment in order to stop the Russian, whatever you want to call it. They call it a special military operation. At this point, I think it's gone way beyond that, but let's just be honest. It's a war, and it doesn't appear that the West wants that war to end, but it does look like they're losing. And they've been losing for some time. And again, here in the West, it's our propaganda against Putin. Now, Putin's accusation comes after Ukraine significantly stepped up drone attacks inside Russian territory. Moscow has made it clear it believes the U.S. and its allies are involved in the attacks. And The Economist recently reported that the operations often use intelligence gathered by Kiev's Western backers. So it's all military intelligence that we have, and we employ that intelligence and we send the drones out. So again, Putin getting agitated. If the nuclear power plant was really targeted, I mean, aren't these people supposed to be the real green people, the people who are concerned about the environment? Why would this be happening? Because what? They want nuclear fallout in a certain part of the world, so long as it doesn't affect the rest of the world. We found out how that wasn't the case in Japan after the tsunami, when the nuclear plant melted down there and all the radiation went into the water, killed the fish, and they were tracking that radiation and that contamination across the entire Pacific over to California. So these people are nuts if they're targeting a nuclear power plant. Now, it could just be Russian propaganda. We can't believe Russia, but we can believe everything the Western media says. And hence the algorithm is now even more antagonistic because, again, I'm saying things I'm not supposed to say. I'm talking about how the West lies. Our president lies to the citizenry here. And this has been going on for decades. I mean, you can get very black-pilled on this stuff and get to a certain point where you're like, I don't trust anybody. And that's where I'm at. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust Republicans or Democrats. I don't trust the whole government shutdown narrative. It's just being used to print more money because we can't balance the budget. We should have a balanced budget amendment in the Constitution of the United States, but we don't. And so what happens is this becomes a political football that gets kicked around, and you've got this war going on. And what's really pathetic is both sides of the aisle, enough of them, support endless war in Ukraine. And some of these people live in districts where obviously you've got military contractors and military bases, and this is just good business. This is what we've built. The United States of Empire. We've built this huge web of endless military and endless war, and there's no stopping it. There's nobody coming along speaking directly to the American people. There needs to be some person, doesn't even have to be a political candidate, has to be somebody who can get on TV and tell the truth about what we've been doing since even before World War II. Our solution is always blow things up, rebuild that country, and then, contract all this stuff to the highest or lowest bidders, depending on, who ends up getting these contracts here in the United States. It doesn't matter. It's business, and this is evil business. This is the apex of evil because, again, we are funding our country indirectly by endless wars and endless conflicts. And, Putin comes along and pushes back a little bit. And then now we've got this China-Russia alliance, and certain people in both political parties are very scared of this. And they're the ones that caused this. They're the ones, if you're not going to do diplomacy, then these countries are going to go off on their own. They're going to be like, we don't need the United States. And that's exactly what's happening. The BRICS alliance, this is good news for certain parts of the world because they're just leaving the United States behind. You're going to hear about sanctions, more sanctions against Russia because they did X, Y, and Z, more sanctions against China because of what they're doing with regards to Taiwan. You know what, folks? The sanctions don't work. They might work temporarily, but this makes it sound like we're being big and tough and we're strong. We have the upper hand. We found out the Russian ruble bounced right back. They said the ruble would be in rubble, right? They're trying to be cute with the language and so forth. Guess what? No, that didn't happen. It went the opposite direction. And I'm not pro-Russia for the sake that I want our country to fail. I'm not even pro-Russia in general. I'm just looking at the circumstances and saying, hey, the Russians aren't to blame for everything. And if you just put the foreign policy aside and evil Vladimir Putin And right, he's worse than Dick Cheney, obviously. Dick Cheney is a saint now compared to Vladimir Putin. So you put him aside and you say, okay, can we maybe send some people or send some money to the people of Maui? Can we send some money to the people that are getting hit with natural disasters here in the United States, whether it's a hurricane or a flood? They had a huge flood in the northeast part of the country, and there may be more issues because another hurricane is heading in that direction. Who knows, right? Who knows what's going to happen? We should have a way to protect the homeland from enemies, both foreign and domestic, but also from just natural disasters that occur. But, the only solution we have to everything is just print the money. Just keep printing the money. And so your, loaf of bread hits $5 and you're going to sit there and go, I don't understand what's happening. I didn't do this. I'm a hardworking person. It's the government that's doing this. It's the government at the macro level that's destroying our economic growth and our prosperity because their focus is on something that our founders said was ridiculous and what they were running from when they left the UK to start a new country. It's just true. And so now we're everything that the founders warned us not to be. And so what do? The only thing you can do is, again, contact your local politicians. And by the hundreds, by the thousands, you need to say no more endless war. I don't care if Russia is threatening. Oh no, we need to be we're not the world's superpower. We're not. And we haven't been for quite some time. And this notion that we have to be or we need to be is outdated. What we need to be is a strong and neutral place where people can prosper and work and become successful and have equal and big opportunities to succeed. That's what we should have. But instead, we're constantly off balance with a foreign policy which is destroying the planet, not just the United States, but the entire planet. And we need to pull back. I don't think we know how. So in any event here, who's right? Is it Putin? Is he right? Is he bluffing here? He's accusing the UK of possibly targeting a nuclear power plant in Russia. I mean, that's a pretty big accusation. So far, when Russia was talking about, the bridge, the Crimean bridge, and also the gas pipeline, Russia did not blow up the bridge. Russia did not blow up their own pipeline. And I'm pretty sure that somebody was probably targeting a nuclear power plant in Russia, which is a big time act of war, which goes way over the bounds or the boundaries of what is happening right now in Ukraine. It just does. And at some point, if this keeps going, you're going to provoke this bear, and eventually this bear is going to strike back in a big way. And everybody knows this, and it's not hard to predict, and it's only going to get worse if we keep on the same track. Anyway, folks, that's a video on this. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, please. Politically Homeless. For all of you who were in a political party or not, it doesn't matter. A lot of people don't participate in the process here as far as voting in the United States or even caring about politics. Those people are called normies, and they have it good because they just try to live their life. And if something gets in their way, that's when they become activated. So we need more people being activated, but the federal stuff, really a waste of time right now until we reform everything and bring it back locally and bring it back to the people. That's the way the Constitution was designed. It's no longer functioning. So we have to start there if we're going to get anything back to some sense of normalcy. All right. See you soon.